The mighty empire had fallen in the west, its lands carved up among former enemies. Yet, in the east, an ambitious couple had dreams of restoration. However, enemies, both human and plague, threatened to undermine their ambitions. Hello, and welcome to Impactful Moments, where we explore some of the most, you guessed it, impactful moments in human history. If history is your thing or you simply enjoy learning new topics, please consider liking and subscribing to our channel. Your support helps us to continue creating captivating, impactful historical content. In this video, we will discuss the reign of Justinian and Theodora, the power couple who reshaped an empire. Western Rome fell in 476 CE, and 6 years later, Flavius Petrus Sabatus was born to a peasant family in Dardania, on the Balkan Peninsula. Over the next decades, while the West saw power shifts among Germanic kingdoms, like the Vandals and Ostrogoths, the Eastern Mediterranean became the Christian Byzantine Empire. Despite threats from the Sasanian Persians and the Bulgars, the Byzantine Empire experienced relative stability under emperors Zeno, Anastasius, and Justin I. Emperor Justin, who had risen from peasantry and pig farming, climbed the Byzantine political ladder, bringing his adopted nephew, the aforementioned Petrus Sabatus, along for the ride. In 527, Justin died, and Sabatus, Caesar since 525 and co-emperor for 4 months, became sole emperor, taking the name Justinianus, or Justinian. Justinian fell in love with his equally ambitious accomplice, Theodora, and after Justin repealed the law forbidding their marriage, as Theodora's profession was seen as too promiscuous for a politician, they wed in 525. Together, Justinian and Theodora led the Byzantines through a mixed legacy of highs and lows, shaping the artistic, legal, and cultural landscapes for millennia. They reformed the empire by assembling a brilliant dream team who, despite their own corruptions and quirks, would leave the empire unrecognizable. Knowing that these reforms would cost money, Justinian began by overhauling the tax system through John the Cappadocian, who eliminated loopholes, collecting taxes often through extortion and torture. Justinian then aimed to create what would become his most lasting legacy by overhauling Rome's legal system. Roman laws had been reinterpreted and changed over a millennium, leaving a framework of scattered, often contradictory laws across the empire. Justinian appointed Tribonian, a brilliant legal scholar who in just 14 months consolidated these laws into the Corpus Juris Civilis, or body of civil law. This included the Codex, or codification of laws, the Digest, or juristic writings, and the Institutes, which were legal textbooks. The Corpus Juris Civilis became the sole legal source under Roman law. New laws, enacted during Justinian's reign, were later compiled as the Novellae, often considered the fourth section of the Corpus. A staunch lover of Rome, Justinian also dreamed of reconquering the West and reuniting the entirety of the empire. For this he turned to Belisarius, a master military tactician who led his well-undermanned army to a stunning victory against the Sasanian Persians at Dara, and who many consider to be one of the greatest and most underrated generals in human history. Before Justinian could head west, though, he faced significant turmoil at home. The sporting scene in Constantinople, particularly chariot racing, was a major part of city life, with fans divided into demes, or clubs, notably the Veneti, or blues, and Prasini, or greens, who also played a significant role in the city's politics. Minor riots were common, similar to modern-day soccer hooliganism. One riot escalated to murder, leading to the execution of 7 members from the Blues and the Greens. However, 2 members escaped and took sanctuary in a church. Justinian's refusal to pardon them incited the crowds, and what began as a minor disturbance snowballed into a full-scale revolt. The mobs, who may likely have had the backing from politicians who were against John the Cappadocian's tax practices, cried Nika, meaning conquer, and made increasing demands for justice, eventually even calling for Justinian to relinquish his throne. The Nika riots spiraled out of control, and some estimates suggest that up to half of Constantinople was set on fire and destroyed. Justinian even considered fleeing to save his life. However, Theodora famously refused, delivering a legendary speech ending with, quote unquote, royalty is a fine burial shroud, preferring death over exile. Bolstered by Theodora's determination, Justinian stayed and suppressed the revolt with brutality. Generals Belisarius and Mundus, under Justinian's orders, slaughtered tens of thousands of rebels in the Hippodrome, preserving the throne and cementing Theodora's legacy as a powerful co-ruler. Many historians believe that while Justinian may have been the official authoritative face of the empire, Theodora's stand during the Nika riots indicates that she did play a significant role in shaping Justinian's policies and ambitions until her death in 548. With internal stability secured, the focus shifted toward reconquering the empire's lost territories, a task entrusted to the Byzantines' most capable general, Belisarius. In 533, in his first campaign, Belisarius quickly retook North Africa from the Vandals, with decisive victories at the Battle of Ad Decimum and the Battle of Tricamerum, collapsing the Vandal kingdom. The army then turned north to Italy. The Gothic War began in 535, after the pro-Roman Ostrogothic queen Amalasuntha was killed, giving the empire a casus belli, or cause for war. Justinian sent Belisarius to reclaim Rome and the Italian peninsula from the Goths and their king Vitiges. Despite limited resources, Belisarius captured Sicily, Naples, Rome, and eventually the Gothic capital of Ravenna by 540, bringing much of Italy back under Roman control. However, just as Italy seemed secure, disaster struck. Unusually cold weather patterns from 536 to 539, possibly caused by a major volcanic eruption, may have disrupted grain supplies. Many historians believe that this may have attracted rats, some of which carried Yersinia pestis, the bacteria that caused the Black Death in the 14th century. Additionally, the recapturing of grain supplies in North Africa led to increased shipments across the empire. In 541 in Egypt, one of the empire's main grain centers, the plague began. By 543, the plague had spread to every corner of the empire, hitting the capital, Constantinople, particularly hard, even possibly infecting Justinian himself, although he did survive. It's estimated that, at peak, the plague killed between 5 and 10,000 people per day in Constantinople, and that up to 25% of the empire's population was wiped out. Mass graves were often set up outside of the city to handle the horrifying death toll. This demographic catastrophe also crushed tax revenues, devastated the manpower of the army, and severely lowered agricultural production as there simply were fewer farmers. On top of this, Justinian had just poured enormous amounts of money into previous wars and major reconstruction projects following the Nika riots, such as the Hagia Sophia. The combined effect of the plague and these expenditures economically devastated the empire. While the Goths were almost certainly affected by the plague, their less complex trade infrastructure and fewer port cities, recently lost during the previous war, may have limited the damage compared to the Byzantines. With Belisarius redeployed to the empire's eastern front against Persia, this relative advantage may have reinvigorated the Goths, who, under their new king Totila, set out to recapture Italy. The Goths did just that, retaking much of the peninsula by 544. When Belisarius returned from Persia, much of Italy hopped between Gothic and Byzantine control, including Rome, which had changed hands several times over the following years. However, by 551, the tide began to turn again in favor of the Byzantines, who had begun to recover from the plague both financially and in population. Narses, a Romanized Armenian eunuch general, led a revitalized Byzantine force to a decisive victory at the Battle of Tagine, where Totila was killed. He then recovered Rome, and in October 553 wiped out the remaining credible Gothic army at the Battle of Mans Lactarius. The Gothic War, with the exceptions of some holdouts, came to an end when Narses held off invasions from the Frankish and Alemanni tribes at the Battle of Volturnus. Justinian's preoccupation with Gothic and Persian wars, his handling of the plague, and the 548 death of Theodora, who may have been his true legislative driving force, likely kept Justinian's plate full until his nephew Justin II's succession in 565. The reign of Justinian and Theodora had mixed results for the Byzantine Empire. While their ambition to restore Rome was clear, and some actions profoundly enhanced the empire, other actions, coupled with the plague, had harmful consequences. Justinian and Theodora used the devastation of the Nika riots, which they brutally suppressed, as an opportunity to revamp Constantinople, creating exceptional monuments like the Hagia Sophia. This magnificent church, the largest of its time, is considered one of the most beautiful religious buildings ever built. Additionally, Justinian's overhaul of the legal code provided immediate benefits by standardizing and organizing the rule of law across the empire. However, their ambition to restore Rome may have been counterproductive. Despite successfully reclaiming North Africa, Italy, and parts of the Iberian Peninsula, these victories came at an immense cost in terms of institutions, money, and population. While Gothic rule was not Roman, it maintained many Roman institutions, even strengthening the Senate's influence following Rome's fall in 476. However, in retaliation for Byzantine actions during the Gothic War, many senators were executed or fled east, significantly diminishing their influence and mirroring the decline of other Roman institutions. The plague decimated the population, and the prolonged Gothic wars additionally drained the empire's resources, leading many historians to view the triumph as a Pyrrhic victory, where the costs outweighed the benefits. By war's end, while Italy was back in Roman hands, it looked less like Rome than it did under the Goths. The devastation also opened the door for the Lombards to invade, taking large swaths of Italy in 568 and 569, marking what many consider to be the true decline of Roman culture in Italy. The reign of Justinian and Theodora drastically shifted the status of the Roman Empire with both immediate changes and long-term repercussions. Their legal reforms not only consolidated Roman law across the empire, but also laid the foundations for civil law that governs much of today's Western world, including most of Europe, South America, and other countries colonized by non-British powers, profoundly influencing the evolution of global Western legal traditions. The construction of Christian monuments and architecture, most notably the Hagia Sophia, which stood as the largest Christian church in the world for over 1,000 years, also had transformative impacts on centuries of art and architecture. These grand structures set new standards for engineering, artistic expression, and spiritual symbolism, inspiring generations of architects and builders. The legal reforms and artistic achievements would ultimately influence the aesthetic and philosophical aspects of the Renaissance several hundred years later, fostering a revival of classical antiquity and artistic innovation that reshaped Western culture. The plague during Justinian and Theodora's reign may have drastically altered the Roman Empire's revitalization. Combined with the Reconquest Wars, it drained resources, leaving the Byzantines vulnerable to external threats. While we can never be certain of alternative histories, it's plausible to suggest that without the plague, the Roman Empire might have been restored to its former glory. A stronger Byzantine Empire also could have significantly impacted subsequent conflicts, such as the Arab-Byzantine Wars, which began in the following century, potentially influencing the early growth of Islam. The plague's crippling effect hindered Justinian's ambition and may have reshaped the geopolitical landscape, influencing the rise and fall of empires in the centuries that followed. I hope you enjoyed this video and found this period in history both informative and enlightening. Please feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below, and I hope you can join us for another video. Thanks for watching.